Hello, this is a video about solving radical equations. First off, a radical equation is an equation where the variable is under a radical. One important thing about solving radical equations is that you have to check your solutions, because sometimes bogus solutions called extraneous solutions could result because of the procedure or process that's used to solve radical equations. So here are the steps to solving radical equations. You first must isolate the radical. So get the radical by itself. Then you'll raise both sides to the necessary power to get rid of the radical. For instance, you'll square both sides if you have a square root, cube both sides if you have a cube root. What you do to one side, you have to do it to the other. It's an equation. Next, solve for the variable, and then you have to check your solutions. It's not a choice, it's mandatory. So example 1, I have square root of x minus 1 equals x minus 7. The radical is already isolated. It's a square root, so you have to figure out how do you undo taking the square root of something. Well, the opposite of taking the square root is to square. Square both sides. What you did on one side, you have to do it to the other. You are left with x minus 1, x minus 7 squared. That is a binomial to the second power. Remember, that's like saying x minus 7 times x minus 7. If you were to FOIL this out, you get x squared minus 14x plus 49. It's a quadratic equation because the highest power on the variable is 2. So your goal here would be to set the equation equal to 0. Take away x from both sides. Then you would add 1 to both sides. 0 equals x squared minus 15x plus 50. I like my equations better when the 0 is on the right hand side, so let me just mirror the equation here. And then we can factor. I believe it factors into x minus 10, x minus 5. Take each factor, set it equal to 0, and solve for x. Get 10. You get x equals 5, but don't say these are your answers yet. You have to check. It's not an option, you have to check. Let's see what happens to our equation when x equals 10. So the story begins here. I have the square root of 10 minus 1 equals 10 minus 7. Square root of 9 equals 3. Is this really true? Yes, it is. Well, what happens when x equals 5? Let's find out. You get square root of 5 minus 1 equals 5 minus 7. Does the square root of 4 equal negative 2? That is not true. It does not work. 5 is extraneous. So x equals 10 is the only solution. X equals 5, not going to happen. So the key here is to always check your solutions. All right, let's do a cube root. First thing you have to do is you have to isolate the radical. Add 1 to both sides. Cube root of 1 minus 2x equals 1. You have a cube root by itself. In order to release the 1 minus 2x that's underneath, we have to get rid of that cube root. The only way to counter a cube root is to cube it. So you cube both sides of the equation, leaving you with 1 minus 2x equals 1. Take away 1 from both sides, negative 2x equals 0. Divide both sides by negative 2. And you actually get x equals 0. But let's see if it actually works. Let's check. plug in 0 for x. Keep simplifying until you get to a solution that's absolutely true. Finally, we do get 0 equals 0, which is true. It does check. So x equals 0 is indeed a solution. So the key here is, well, check your solutions, of course, but isolate the radical first. X equals 2 square root of x. I'm going to go by my usual process of first isolating the radical. Divide both sides by 2. There's another way you could do this, but I want to stick to my same process for everything. Once you get square root of x, the radical by itself, well, then you would then have to square both sides. Squaring a fraction means you square the top to get x squared, you square the bottom to get 4. In order to solve this equation, well, I'd have to multiply everything by 4. That's how I'd get rid of the fraction. So you'll actually end up getting x squared equals 4 times x. Set it equal to 0. So take away 4x from both sides, and you would get x squared minus 4x equals 0. Quadratic equation, it's set equal to 0. Let's solve by factoring. Let's factor out the x. So either x equals 0 or x minus 4 equals 0. So either x equals 0 or x equals 4. Let's check. Let's see what happens when x equals 0. Does 0 equal 2 times the square root of 0? Does 0 equal 2 times 0? And that is true. So 0 works. Does it work though when x equals 4? Does 4 equal 2 times the square root of 4? Does 4 equal 2 times 2? Indeed it does. Both solutions worked. So x equals 0 works and x equals 4. So in this case, both solutions did work, which is fine. So that's all I have for you. Thanks for watching.